Greetings everyone. This is T. S. Shweta from 8th CSE Department of SVC Bengaluru, and I am here to present my seminar topic, which is the SOX protocol or the Socket Secure Protocol. Coming to the table of contents, I'm gonna be speaking about introduction, what is SOX proxy, history of SOX proxy, literature survey, comparison to HTTP proxy, versions of SOX proxy, applications and advantages and disadvantages. Finally, the conclusion. So coming to the introduction part, let's see what a proxy server actually is. In computer networks, a proxy or a proxy server is a computer that sits between you and the server. It acts as a gateway between a local network and a large scale network, such as the internet. A proxy server works by intercepting connections between sender and the receiver. All the incoming data enters through one port, which is by default port 1080, and is forwarded to the rest of the network via another port. Aside from traffic forwarding, proxy servers provide security by hiding the actual IP address of a server. A SOX proxy is an internet protocol that exchanges network packets between the client and the server via a proxy. This can be better understood in the upcoming sections. So let's see what a proxy server actually works. Client contacts proxy instead of the originally addressed server. A proxy evaluates client requests and decides which to pass or which to reject. A proxy transfers requests to originally addressed server on behalf of client. Server answers to proxy without knowing about client behind. Finally, proxy passes answer to requesting client. So let's see what is SOX proxy. SOX, which stands for Socket Secure, is a network protocol that facilitates communication with servers through a firewall by routing network traffic to the actual server on behalf of a client. SOX is designed to route any type of traffic generated by any protocol or a program. A proxy server, typically a SOX proxy server, creates a TCP connection to another server behind the firewall on the client's behalf, then exchanges network packets between the client and the actual server. The SOX proxy server does not interpret the network traffic between the client and server in any way. It is often used because clients are behind a firewall and are not permitted to establish TCP connections to outside servers unless they do it through the SOX proxy server. Therefore, a SOX proxy relays a user's TCP and UDP session over a firewall. SOX performs at layer 5 of the OSI model, which is the session layer, an intermediate layer between the presentation layer and the transport layer. It can handle several request types, including HTTP, HTTPS, POP3, SMTP, and FTP. As a result, SOX can be used for email, web browsing, peer to peer sharing, and file transfers, and more. This diagram demonstrates how a SOX S5 works. Initially, the client makes a connection request to the SOC X5 proxy using SSH, which is called the SSH encrypted tunneling method. Then the proxy forwards a request to the destination. The web server responds to the connection request. Finally, the SOC X5 proxy forwards information to the client. Coming to the history of SOX X5, the protocol was originally developed and designed by David Koblas, a system administrator of MIPS Computer Systems. After MIPS was taken over by Silicon Graphics in 1992, Koblas presented a paper on SOX at that year's Usenix Security Symposium, making SOX publicly available. The SOX reference architecture and client are owned by Permute Technologies, a spin-off from NEC. The SOX S5 protocol was originally a security protocol that made firewalls and other security products easier to administer. It was approved by the IETF in 1996. The protocol was developed in collaboration with Aventail Corporation, which markets the technology outside of Asia. Moving on to the literature survey, the first paper, the Mobile VPN Scheme based on SOX S5, published in the International Conference on Machine Vision and Human Machine Interface, China. So, according to this paper, a mobile VPN system based on SOX protocol for private communication was proposed in response to the insecure aspects of data exchange over public mobile networks. Then its execution guidelines, service capabilities, safety features were presented. The practicality and security of the mobile VPN scheme are demonstrated by theory analysis and experimental findings, respectively. The second paper, which is the design of secure authentication protocol in SOX v5 for VPN using mobile phone, published in the International Conference on Trends in Automation, Communications and Computing Technology. So, in this protocol, when a user wishes to access a virtual private network, a mobile phone is used to provide authentication between the user and the SOX proxy server. The inspiration for creating this authentication protocol was the simplicity and widespread adoption of mobile phones compared to smart cards. The suggested protocol creates the session credentials between the mobile user and the SOX proxy server as well as the VPN's application server. The proposed protocol enables simultaneous access to the application server by numerous mobile users through a SOX proxy server. The suggested strategy is resistant to well known attacks. So, comparison to HTTP proxying. So, as we know, HTTP or the Hypertext Transfer Protocol is an application layer protocol that transfers information such as text, images, audio, video, etc. between clients and web servers. An HTTP proxy is an intermediary that receives and forwards HTTP requests between client machines and web servers. Typically, SOX proxies operates at a lower level than HTTP proxy. SOX uses a handshake protocol to inform the proxy software about the connection that the client is trying to make and then acts as transparently as possible. Whereas a regular proxy may interpret and rewrite headers. Though HTTP proxying has a different usage model in mind, the connect method allows for forwarding TCP connections. However, SOX proxies can also forward UDP traffic and work in reverse, while HTTP proxies cannot. HTTP proxies are traditionally more aware of the HTTP protocol, performing higher level filtering. This can be better understood with an example. SOX. Imagine Bill wishes to communicate with Jane over the internet, but a firewall between them exists on his network, where Bill is not authorized to communicate with Jane directly. So Bill connects the SOX proxy on his network, informing it about the net connection he wishes to make to Jane. The SOX proxy opens a connection through the firewall and facilitates the communication between Bill and Jane. When it comes to HTTP, imagine Bill wishes to download a web page from Jane, who runs a web server. Bill cannot directly connect to Jane's server as a firewall has been put in place on his network. In order to communicate with the server, Bill connects to its network's HTTP proxy. His web server communicates with Proxy in exactly the same way that it would directly with Jane's server if that was possible. That is, it sends a standard HTTP request header. The HTTP proxy connects to Jane's server and then transmits back to Bill any data that Jane's server returns. A SOX proxy server uses TCP connections to accept client connection requests. SOX proxies, as opposed to HTTP proxies, receive and forward HTTP, HTTPS, SMTP, and FTP requests, whereas HTTP proxies are used to transfer only HTTP or HTTPS information between the client and server. Further, coming to the versions of SOX, SOX proxies are classified into two types: SOX S4 and SOX version 5. SOX version 4 and 5 are network protocols that handle incoming and outgoing traffic between clients and servers. Even though SOX proxies use these two protocols, there are some differences between SOX S4 and SOX S5. If we look at it, there are two main disadvantages in SOX version 4 implementation, which are: there is no weak authentication of client and server. To make a client application SOXified, it has to be compiled against the SOX version 4 library. This has been improved in the version 5 by providing user authentication, which means that only authorized personnel can communicate, then name resolution, and support of UDP packets. Coming to the applications, advantages and disadvantages, uh, the SOX version 5 proxy allows users to fake their virtual location. SOX S5 proxies allows you to hide your IP address from online services to provide greater security. Advantages: the SOX S5 premium private proxies uses only secure connection between the client and proxy machine, which means that nobody, including your web provider or administrator of local area network, can see what you're actually sending or receiving. Its sole solution to keep your IP hidden is to utilize SOX S5. Fewer errors, better performance. Unlike other application proxies, SOX S5 does not rewrite data packets, it just relays the traffic between the devices. Therefore, it is less prone to errors and performance increases automatically. Disadvantages: SOX S5 private proxies are cheap itself, does nothing to safeguard your data. It simply lets you proxy your connections to another association, and any traffic going between the consumer and SOX S5 proxy is not secured. In conclusion, SOX S5 proxy is more secure than HTTP proxy because it supports multiple authentication methods to prevent unauthorized clients from connecting to the server. Unlike SOX proxies, HTTP proxies only use the HTTP protocol, while the HTTP proxy servers can only process HTTP and HTTPS traffic between the client and web server. SOX proxies can process a variety of protocols, including HTTP, FTP, and SMTP. A SOX S5 proxy is faster than HTTP proxy since it supports UDP connections. UDP is faster and more efficient than TCP. SOX X5 proxy is a lightweight general purpose proxy. that sits at the layer 5 of OSI model, which is much faster than than other proxies. That's it for my presentation. Thank you.